Hello everyone, following my game versus TPS Viper, where he played Kit, I was inspired to create a Kit deck of my own, leveraging on the power of York and Data Sucker. Now, before we jump into the game proper, what you're seeing on your screen right now is the playthrough at the midpoint of my very first try with this new Kit deck. And it was only after editing the video footage that I realized I committed a serious mistake during the course of the game. During one of my turns, I ran his HQ 3 times because his HQ was only protected by a single layer of wall of static. I had a York out, and York was 3 strength, which matched the wall of static, so I was able to break through with Kit's ability. However, I completely forgot that Kit's ability can only activate once per turn, not once per run. I completely forgot, and the runner himself forgot. The Corp himself forgot as well. And what ended up happening from that turn was that I was able to score 2 agendas, and from then I managed to win the game. So even though I won, I felt like I cheated the win. So I'm very sorry to the Corp who I played against. Well, at least I've learned my mistakes, and hopefully I won't make it again. Remember guys, only once per turn. Now we can get on to the real game, which is my second playthrough with this new Kit deck. This game is against Jinteki, Personal Evolution. This means that I have to be really careful when running both his eyes and his servers. Must make sure that I don't get flatlined, and always keep lots of cards in hand. So he starts by icing up both centrals, which is a very smart move. Since I have a Data Sucker in hand, I run Archives on the last turn to get one more Data Sucker token. I have a test run in hand, so now my primary goal is to get to 8 credits, test run a York out, and bring the York out for real the turn after. I prep with Diesel, and I see a Stimhack which gives me 9 credits. Unfortunately, I can't use it to bring the York out because I don't have a self-modifying code. I would have done that if I could. So instead, with the Diesel, I face check the face down card because the worst it could be was a snare, which it indeed was. At least force the Corp to pay 4 credits. Jinteki isn't all that rich, and I lose a couple of cards. No big deal. So he starts playing the shell game, and having played some Jinteki myself, I know that when the shell game is played, there is at least one agenda in there. So, time to check. Jackson Howard. Alright. He trashes the Jackson before I can access the server. So then after that, me and the Corp had a debate over whether this was considered an unsuccessful run or not for the purposes of John Masanori. The FAQ clarifies this. It is neither a successful nor an unsuccessful run. So I would not get attacked, and I wouldn't draw a card after he trashes the Jackson to reshuffle 3 cards. Because of this debate that went on for some time, I cut the video and I forgot to turn it back on until his turn and my turn ended. So briefly, I ran the other shell, the other remote server, and it turned out to be a false lead. So I scored it, and we continued on from there. It's now the Corp's turn, and he decided to ice up Archives so that I cannot get any more free Data Sucker tokens, and he began power drawing without a Jackson. So I also do my power draw, and for a moment I considered running with lots of cards. But seeing the KT there, I decided to work on my economy instead, because ultimately my goal is still to get my York out, so that took first priority. I would like to have face checked all those eyes and laugh at the Neural Katanas as they eat up my Diesel. Alright, the Corp continues with the shell game, and I suspected that the 1 advance was not a Nisei, so I ran on the 0 advance, and it really turned out to be that I was right. It was an agenda. Unfortunately, I didn't expect that agenda to be a fetal AI, and I ran with 1 credit in the bank. So that was very, very painful. I could cred up and run Veto AI again, but seeing that Veto AI is a 5 advance, I was in no hurry to score it. So what ended up happening was that I actually managed to force the Corp to spend 2 pieces of ice to guard that Veto AI. I think that's a very huge mistake on his part. The Corp does not want to score Veto AI. For investment of 5 credits, 6 clicks, it's not worth the effort when you can be using it to deal 3 net damage and 2 credits of loss to the runner. But it's okay. He chooses to do that. I'm not complaining. I get through with 1 ice thin servers. Not complaining. I finally top deck my York, and now the games begin for real. With 2 data sucker tokens, I can rampage on anywhere with ice of 5 strength or less. He doesn't rest R&D, so that's more stuff for me. I ran into the server with 5 cards in hand, so as long as there aren't 2 snares in there, I should be fine. And yes, there wasn't a single snare. And I scored a private security force, bringing the score to 3-0. He must be panicking right now. I continue making some money, and because he iced up R&D, my only place left to run is HQ, which I did. He does not rest ice, so I keep getting more cards from John Masanori or scoring a Nisei. That was pretty good. So I continue drawing back more cards because against Jinteki you don't want to run with few cards. And he continues playing the shell game. I did consider entertaining the shell game, but first I'll make use of my code gate. First piece of ice encounter gains code gate to run HQ, and I grabbed the Nisei. And that ended the game very quickly. While this game was a landslide victory for me, I think the main cause of my dominance was because the Corp was simply not used to playing against Kid. He didn't know how to deal with the crazy amount of power that York Data Saga poses, and wasn't able to ice up both HQ and R&D in time before I scored 7 agenda points. Of course, it didn't help that he misplayed the Veto AI by placing 2 layers of ice on it, but otherwise, I think the strength of this deck lies in Corps not knowing how to play against it. We'll see if I can pull off more successes with this deck, but that's it for now. Thanks for watching and see you next time.